Okay, we are live and good morning. Welcome to the pre-match live show of the third ODI in the Women's Tri-Nation ODI series between South Africa and Sri Lanka. And it's a vital match for both of the teams because both teams need to, open their account in this series. Yet to open their account in this series because both of them lost their opener against India. India are in a strong position considering this series because they have won their first two matches and they're looking pretty good, at the top position. But Tushadi, a big match for both either of the teams because both South Africa and Sri Lanka, as I mentioned, that they need to open their accounts and hopefully this match will be a better preparation for both of the teams because as I started that they needed a win and for a win you have to give your best and you have to be your more than average as I can say. So what are you thinking about this match?
Well, to be honest, if I have to be absolutely blunt and honest, South Africa come in as the favorites, of course.
Yes.
But having said that, eh, you know, if you guys have seen the thumbnail, we have actually
Mm.
put both the captains because uh,
Yes.
both the teams are actually pretty dependent on their captain, especially Sri Lanka. My problem was, or why am I saying South Africa is favorite? Uh, is because South Africa still has resources. If you think
Mhm.
of last game itself, in that chase, it was actually Tasmin Brits who was the more important partner than Laura Wolvaardt. Because Wolvaardt got out eventually after a big partnership, and even in that opening partnership, Brits was way more significant, or Brits' contribution was way more significant. But as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, the moment Chamari Athapaththu doesn't perform, it was Vishmi Gunaratne who was, performing. But in this series, Vishmi Gunaratne is not there. Hence, you can see there is promise. There are the 25s and 30s, but you don't see that 50, 70, 100 because it's an ODI game. You want to cross that threshold.
Mm.
Like I keep saying, if you're playing the longer format, and as a batter, if you have crossed 30 and you have not made a 50, and you
Mm.
have crossed a 70 and not made a 100, then you have messed up an opportunity, especially on the
Exactly.
in the top order. So I think this game will be way more important for Sri Lanka than South Africa because South Africa, mind you, Snehashish, at least I felt. I would like to ask you: did you feel that they were actually good against Spain?
No, and the most surprising part was that the series is happening in Sri Lanka. So being the
Yeah.
host, being the home side in the condition that you were accustomed to and you were known, the way they played, it was surprising to see because before the match, before that Sri Lanka India match, in the pre-match, we were discussing that okay, maybe the format, considering the format, India might start as a favorite, but still, if you see the previous performance of Sri Lanka against India in Sri Lanka, especially I am
Correct.
saying that Asia Cup performance, at least we expected a better performance, especially from the bowlers, the spinners. But the way the spinners bowled, I know that Chamari Adapatu had to play a big role. You know how she used her bowler in different phases, so that played a big role. We will discuss about that. But still, the the quality spinners they have and the way they bowled, it was so disappointing to see because as a team, I think Sri Lanka expected okay, we didn't bat that well, but still the score they had, they would have expected okay, we can take at least three, four, 5 wickets of India and some pressure we can put on them. But they didn't. But they failed to do that, and India managed to win that match. I think by 9 wickets, if I'm not wrong. So I think it was very disappointing. Obviously, as you mentioned, that Chamari Atawatu has been the major factor, and it is not wrong anything. I think in every team there is one or two players that you are mostly dependent because they are world class effort. But you have to chip in. The other players have to chip in around hard, so that while you are batting you can cross that 200 or 220 mark, or you can bowl, or when you are bowling, so that you can you know put pressure on the opposition team. But the way Sri Lanka managed to come up with in that game against India, it was disappointing to see. Especially again, I am saying that when you are playing in Sri Lanka, so that was the main part.
Absolutely. And as you said, it's perfectly fine if somebody is
Mm.
dependent on somebody. But
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
problem is that every team has a superstar and the
Mhm.
others are rallying around them.
Yes.
Like for example, if you look at Australia somewhere, you feel that Beth
Mm.
Mooney is a very vital cog, but
Yes.
uh, you know, but the others are an option as well. The
Yes.
problem is with the rest, with countries like Sri Lanka, it's all or nothing. It's either
Exactly.
Athapaththu or nothing. That has become a
Mm.
bit of a
That is
problem.
problem. Yes, yes, yes. That is the good point. That you at least need two, three players on whom you can depend it, not only one
Correct.
player. Because one player cannot be consistent or cannot score in every match. That is impossible.
Correct.
So I think that is a point. That is an area that Sri Lanka need to work on, because otherwise it will be very difficult for them. And that is the only reason they did so bad in the T20 World Cup 2024. They were looking so good before the tournament, but when they went into the tournament, the way they played, it was so disappointing. So that
Absolutely.
is the.
But Snehashish, the other point is, I think, which we at times forget to discuss because we keep talking about the batters and
Mm,
how it is over dependent on Athapaththu. What about the Sri Lankan bowling? They absolutely looked
mm.
listless and they did not look penetrative at all. Like for South Africa, there were times when you could understand that the Indian batters were facing difficulties, but in Sri
Yes.
Lankan conditions, Sri Lankan spinners, they're looking
Mm.
pretty average.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, Trishadi, I think you will agree also. I think when opposition playing against Sri Lanka spinners, it is very different in the approach in terms of when you are playing a T20 match and a ODI match. Because in T20 match, you might attack a bowler to score some quick runs. So you can give them an opportunity for a wicket. But in ODI, as you know, you have time, you can pick up the score after some time. So you just, going for those singles, doubles, and eventually some boundaries or loose deliveries. And ultimately, you can score around 60, 70 runs in 10 overs of that particular spinner. So that will work for any team as an opposition batter. So I think as a bowler, I think you have to come up with a different plan, considering that it is a 50 over format. You cannot come up with the same approach or same kind of planning when you are bowling in a T20 format against a top team like India, South Africa, or any other, Sri Lanka, Australia, or maybe England. So I think that is a point. And what point that point that we both discussed in the post match live between Sri Lanka and India, that Athapaththu didn't use their hard spinners at particular phases. I think in the second match, Laura Wolvaardt straight, gave the ball to Sunelu against Smriti Mandana. So,
Yes.
so yeah, so that is a part that obviously as a captain you have to come up with a perfect plan. Okay, this might be the weakness, or this might be the matchup, so go for it. Show trust on the bowler and give the ball to them. Otherwise, after 5 6 over, when the batters are already set, you cannot go to the matchup and say, okay, give me that wicket, and it is very difficult to ask. So I think as a skipper, I expect Chamandi Adapattu to be more penetrative and more uh, confident today, while using her resources. But overall, let's see, because their performance in the as a bowling unit, considering the quality and the experience, at least from the bowling unit, it was quite disappointing against India.
And you said something interesting, Snehashish, from which I will actually point out something that I was thinking the last day. And
Mm.
since Snehashish and I, actually, you can say we are on WhatsApp entire day talking about some cricket or the other. But um, Snehashish, what I've also seen in Chamari Adapattu, and that I don't think is a very good sign of a leader, is somehow if she is not in very good form, I don't see
Mm.
that proactiveness coming in.
Mm.
uh, uh, she gets a little entangled in her head, it seems, because as you perfectly said, I think we had discussed in the post match also,
Mm.
I thought the moment Smriti comes, because look, pacers are not really your strong point. For example,
Yes.
for South Africa, pacers are their strong point. In Banga Khaka, yes, Shabnim Ismail is missing, and she has retired. That's partly sad for South Africa, to be honest. I think two of the best, two, three best South African players have retired. For example, Shabnim Ismail,
Mm.
another player who has been my favorite for years, and something weird happened there. Obviously, Dani van Niekerk, an absolute,
Mm.
absolute blessing to have in the team. But uh, getting back to Chamari Athapaththu's point, I think the disappointing part is I thought she'll straight away throw the ball to Adil Hari, against Smriti Mandana in the power play, because it's not like your pacers are extremely good with the ball, or they get a huge swing or something of that sort. So you have to, and it was a rain curtailed match. It was not a 50-over match. So, and you have scored 147. So there
Mm.
is only one way that you're going to win, and that is by taking wickets. And if that's the
Yes,
option, then I feel the first thing you do is the first over you go to your best
exactly,
bowler, and that
exactly.
would be one of your spinners. It won't be one of your pacers.
Yes,
You gave the pacers with well, there also there is a bit of a, we talk about the Sri Lankan players, we talk about the Sri Lankan captain, but the Sri Lankan management coach also did not seem like they had a plan. I think against Smriti Mandana, South
mm.
Africa had some real good plans. And even Pratika Rawal did score. It's not like Pratika didn't score, but still, South Africa had a plan. We will bowl short to her. She was in trouble. She
Yes.
was in trouble a few times. Yes, it did not go to hand. South Africa fielded so poorly. Otherwise,
Mm.
things could have been very different. You never know.
Exactly.
Had South Africa fielded properly and got those catches going that way. But what happens when you come with a plan is, Snehashish, it did not work last game. It will definitely work next. It could definitely work next game.
Yes.
So that is something there. And the whole point about Sri Lanka not being one of the top sides is this, that
Yes.
somehow that homework part is missing. For Smriti, for example, South African bowlers clearly had that plan of bowling in that leg stump channel, and the ball would end up middle leg, so that she can't free her arms bowling stump to stump. And then they were bowling at her body. So they made it very difficult. They were also, the other thing they did very well was stitching in dot balls, where you put
Mm.
the batters under pressure. Even Pratika took a lot of time to, get on with the game.
Mhm.
So that is where I think, of course, is. But Snatcher, do you think all this at the end of the day boils up to the fact that probably Sri Lankan players, skill wise, are very distinctively at a lower level than India, South Africa?
I think there is no deniable that there is a far difference between when it comes to the quality. There is a difference between South Africa and Sri Lanka, and I think that Sri Lanka management, Sri Lanka fans, Sri Lanka players also know there is no deniable, because if Sri Lanka managed to defeat South Africa today, ultimately it will consider as an upset. All I can say, because if you consider the squad, it will be considered as an upset. Yes, if Sri Lanka managed to defeat India, that was also that would be also an upset, and then
Correct.
would have been defeated to the South Africa. Then okay, they are coming with a momentum. They are playing at home. That's why they are in a good form. That way they are defeating. But if today they manage to defeat South Africa, I think it will be called an upset. But as you mentioned, obviously South Africa came with a perfect plan against every batter. I think India batted brilliantly, I will say, in that match, because they were under pressure. Somehow they managed
Yeah.
to score those important runs. That is why Indian bowlers got that cushion. And South Africa would have won that match as you mentioned, if they could have got those catches and all, then 20-30 run less, and they would have chased that eventually with ease. And
Even I
especially
thought we'll come to
Tasman
South
Bridge.
Africa
Yes.
decision. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think that heat played a huge role in India's win. I think due to that heat, Tasman Beach couldn't continue, and from that only, the crumble happened.
Correct.
So I think that obviously that heat is going to play a major role in today's match. Also, I think that's a very another challenge for every player. That is not defined for, I think, for South Africa or Sri Lankan players. That's a huge factor. But overall, I think a plan is needed. South Africa showed that obviously they didn't win, but at least the fight was there. It was evident that they have some clinical plan against every particular player. I think that is where Sri Lanka needs to work on, and hopefully they will come up with better plans against South Africa. Otherwise, things will not be. easy. And for Chamari Adabato, I want to add one point. I saw her in that World Cup, T20 World Cup in press
Yes.
conference. Also. She is very calm and very softly spoken person. So I think sometimes as a skipper that doesn't work. I think as you mentioned, when things are not going as a batter, I think obviously that affect your captaincy. Okay, I'm not batting well. I couldn't give the team the wanted start. It's very hard for any player to come up in the second innings and okay, go for it. At least we have 100 wicket. Okay, let's try. Let's make it hard for the opposition to get those 100 runs. At least they will try their best to get at least one run off a ball. So that mentality is very hard to come for any player after if he or she doesn't perform individually. So I think that is where Chamari Atapattu as a skipper needs to work. It's okay that you have failed in one innings, but still you have another innings where you can at least make a comeback, or you can show that okay, you have that urgency or you have that fight in yourself. So I think that is where as a captain I think Chamari Yadav needs to work, and that is the mentality that should be in not only in Chamari Yadav in whole team. I think that's the mentality a top team needs, and that is what missing in this Sri Lanka team.
Absolutely. In fact, last game, I think, again, we were chatting. The viewers also will be tired of hearing that we were chatting. But yeah, Snashish and I were discussing probably Tasmin Bridge should have come 1 or 2 overs
Yes.
before the game started slipping. Um, I think where Bridge went a little wrong was she thought she was starting at 108. But the problem is,
Yeah.
while the scoreboard reads 108 and 108 solid runs, she was looking absolutely
Too good.
in that sort of a form where probably none of the bowlers could dismiss her. She was the only one who could
Mm.
dismiss herself or the heat. That happened. But the truth is, when you come out after a break of 20, 25 overs, 30 overs, you are or even 10, 15 overs, you're starting from zero again. You have to adjust to the pace of the pitch. You're not going to come and hit six sixes. So I think she should have given herself that time. Again, I'm not 100% sure if the decision was taken on her cramp, her body,
Mm.
how much water was lost. But having said that, when in India, it's not like when the World Cup will happen, it will be cold or anything of that sort. So these are the conditions that South African players need to get used to. And it's an ODI World Cup. So, and you're an opener. While I'm
Yes.
not saying that that's her fault, but what I'm saying is I think it's a very good exposure. Even that part, the climate part is important, that one is exposed to, because as an
Mm.
opener, you actually have 300 balls to play if you look at it that way. So that
Mm.
is where I thought Brits in the previous game, and especially because it was against India and not against Sri Lanka, she will feel a lot more confident, and you will see the body language changing. But yeah, last game what I also liked was Wolvaardt was extremely proactive.
Mm.
As a captain, she was bringing in the changes. She was continuously altering her field. Do you think Wolvaardt is a better ODI captain than a T20 captain?
I think that this format suits her pretty well than T20 format. I think as a captain also, obviously as a batter,
Yeah,
because as a batter the way she bats, I think obviously this format suits her, and as a captain also the way she, as you mentioned that she was pretty proactive in that match against India. Obviously this suits, and ultimately at the end of the homework that you mentioned in the previous comment, that the homework that you do, it doesn't matter the format against T20 or test or ODI. Ultimately we have to assess the opposition, every particular players in that playing 11. Okay, for this player we have to come up with this plan, or for this player we have to come up
correct.
with a different plan. uh, and then planning is a different thing, execution is a different thing. I think when your players, as a bowler you need to execute those, and obviously the bowler and the captain has to be in the same side when it comes to the field placement and all, because you have been a bowler, and I think Trishadi you will agree that you have to give free hand to that bowler, because the bowler
Absolutely.
knows the bowler knows that what ball she is going to bowl in those next on 6 deliveries, and one specific fielder she wants or he wants at this at a specific direction. So I think you have to give free hand to the bowlers, and Laura Albert is that kind of a skipper. What I have seen so far, that she gives free hand to the bowlers. Okay, tell me what kind of a field setup you want, and I will set up for that for you, and please go according to your plan. So I think as a skipper, Laura has been pretty good. Obviously young, she has a very long career to go. In this short career, she has been so successful as an individual. Obviously as a captain also, she managed to take South Africa to the final also last year in T20 World Cup. Hopefully a good World Cup is also waiting for her and for South Africa. But as a skipper, she has been pretty good, and hopefully today also I expecting her to be more proactive, and maybe a easy win for South Africa. Let's see. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot of comments. We'll come to that. But before that, Tushadi, I want to ask one or two questions on South Africa. That obviously Tasmin Breeze and Laura Wolvaardt are the main players when it comes to batting. Their opening partnership are crucial for them, whether you are batting fast or chasing. But if you see the middle order, considering the first match, Laura Goodwall is there. She is making a comeback. She has played before, not making debut or something. Karabo Meso, a new player, new in the setup. Sunelu, very experienced, and NAD direction, you can say. So when you don't have, a NAK Bosch or a Madison Cap, is this middle order looking a very inexperienced apart from
Yes,
Sunelu?
yes, absolutely. And I think Laura Woolward herself said this, right? She
Mm,
was like, we have a new, inexperienced
mm,
team, and it is
mm.
their chance with Marizane Cap and Anneke Bosch not
NAK
here
Bosch.
to
Mm,
stand up and grab the opportunity, which is where I think this series is probably a perfect practice. I think I like a few of them. For example, I really liked the Derrickson's shape, the
mm,
way she was hitting the ball. It was actually very, very nice, especially considering the fact that at that point, someone like a Sneh Rana was on a roll. Sneh Rana was bowling
mm,
very well, had found her rhythm, and yet Derrickson found her way to hit sixes. Uh, Again, last game I thought probably Meso had to be pushed a little down.
mm,
The
mm,
one area that South Africa will be really concerned with is the wicket keeper batter,
mm.
because obviously Meso has
I,
come in place.
Mesa had, yes. I think
Yeah,
Zapta has been disappointing in the previous series.
yeah, yeah,
Zapta. Mm,
there was no way Jafta was playing this time.
mm,
So
mm,
you had to get a new wicket keeper, but that is where I thought she was okay as a wicket keeper, but as a batter she did not shine at all.
mm,
Yes,
mm.
of course, she's a 17-year-old and probably too quick to, we are being too quick to
Yes,
judge.
yes.
But still, she needs to be pushed a little below. The one player that a lot of people have been asking about, in social media, and I felt Chloe Tran is not used to her full potential, because Chloe herself has to be blamed in a few cases as well. For example, last game, Chloe Tran should have finished the game for South
Yes.
Africa, because otherwise, how on earth are you, or when on earth are you going to finish games for South Africa? What is
Yes,
Chloe Tran's
that is
exact role? She
that
does not
that is
finish
my
games.
question always when someone talks about Chloe Tran, that what she has done properly, to be that playing 11. Because all due respect to her, she is pretty good with the ball, with the bat, but the same problem with with India's Dipti Sharma. Same kind of a batter, bats at number 6 or 7. But as a batter, what contribution either Dipti or a Chloe Tran did for their respective teams in the last few years? Because with all that experience, they should have won at least 2 3 games, but they didn't do that.
Absolutely, and I think, see, with Deepti, you can still say that Deepti is not batting in her
Bowling.
position. Uh,
Yes.
and yes, there is bowling,
Mm.
and do not
Mm.
forget Deepti, out of the circle is not a very good fielder, but inside the circle she's terrific. She can get you
Exactly.
match-winning runouts. Nobody should forget that that run out in
Point.
2017 World Cup. I
Mm.
remember against England, and so many. She has from
Mm.
while she is standing inside the circle, she has done. She has created so many chances by getting those runouts. But the
Mm.
problem with Chloe Trang is, it's not like she's not a good fielder, but as I said, I think she's half of everything. She's a half good fielder, she's a half good
Yes.
bowler, she's a half good batter, and it is her own thing that she has to make those halves count, because
Hmm.
South Africa has shown a lot of faith in her. And now here's what I
Absolutely.
think: if Chloe Trine in this series does not make a very stellar or standing or standout statement performance, then there are high chances you will see a Deckerson and you will see a Bosch back. Then Chloe
Hmm.
Trine is going to lose her position, because eventually that was going to happen. And see, Chloe Trine with the ball also, as I said, it's not like with the ball, someone like a Sunelu, even though she has
Hmm.
changed from a leg spinner to an off spinner, still
Hmm.
seems much more dangerous than a Chloe Tran.
Yes.
As a
Yes.
batter, Sunelu at times struggles, but there are matches where Sunelu has taken South African team to the last spot. But
Hmm.
how many such matches can Chloe try and boast of? So I think it is
Yes.
very
That is the.
important to understand that Chloe Tran being half and half and half. So Chloe Tran is actually not a three-dimensional player directly.
Hmm.
She is a
Hmm.
1.5 dimensional player. She can do all three, but she's average in
Half
all
half
three.
half.
Half, half, half.
Yes, that is the point. And as a team, I think South Africa expect trying to be more effective. And obviously, the main part is experience, because if you see this lineup, she is one of the most experienced players in this lineup. So you expect your experienced players to come up good, and especially again before a World Cup. I think your top players need to be in that form, and Chloe Turner is one of them. And hopefully she can do well, because otherwise, it will, as Trishati mentioned, when your top players come in, Cap, Bosch, because they are definitely going to straight into that playing 11. There is no deniable. So then you will find it difficult to get a place, because any direction doing pretty good. And she direction had a media interaction yesterday. Okay, and in that media interaction, she said that I have been being compared with Madison Cap. I don't know why. Because maybe on social media and everywhere, obviously, kind of a same fast bowling all rounder, and she bats so
Yeah,
well. And me and Trishati were discussing in the sports match that the main impressive thing was the power. I think she's a very powerful hitter. The way she was hitting the ball, it was very powerful hitting. So I think, so she said, I don't know why I am being compared to Cappy, because she is a legend of the game, and I have very
absolutely.
long way to go. But it's okay. It's an honor for me. But just 4 or 5 ODIs I think she has played, and it's a learning process for me. But whatever I think she has shown to Shadi as of now, I think she has a very good potential to be a good
Absolutely.
player for South Africa.
And that is what I'm saying, that now you
Mm.
have Dickerson, so you will not need a Chloe Tran to finish, because
Yes.
Sunelu, while might not be great, but there are two, three things. Sunelu has led the side, which means she has that sort of an experience. She can, of course, support Wolvaardt. Point
Mm.
number two is Sunelu, I think, has done better with the ball than Chloe Tran, and again with the bat as well, somewhere is much better than Chloe when you look at the performances. So I think Tryon really needs to concentrate on the two matches that she's sorry, three matches that she'll
Mm.
definitely get in this series today included.
Today. Mm.
And if South Africa wins today, you will almost hope it will the final will be India South Africa. So maybe
Industry, yes.
four matches,
Mm.
because these four matches could well define Tryan's future in the South African team.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's move to the comments one by one. Sanjit Sarkar SXU, Sri Lanka women need to take single, double, play according to the situation and smartly instead of always going for hits. Good point, Trishadi.
I think this is a problem with the entire
Yes.
Asian lot.
Yes.
It is not singly Sri Lanka's problem or India's problem. It is India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh. The whole thing is we either hit boundaries,
Mm.
or we just play dot balls. That part needs to change, and when that part will change, Snehashish, all of a sudden, this huge gap between Australia and the rest of us will suddenly be reduced.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, Sanjit Sarkar again commenting. Love your analysis of not India but all teams surprisingly. Keep it up. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Sanjit. Okay. Mm. Okay, Sanjit again. Problem with Sri Lanka is they have containing bowlers, not strike bowlers, in my opinion. Okay, not wicket taking bowlers. That I
Yeah.
think he is mentioning. Yes.
But I don't think they have containing bowlers as well. I think the mindset is to contain. I don't think the
Mm.
mindset of the Sri Lankan players is to go all out and attack. Somebody like a Chamari Athapaththu, where is she different than the rest of the Sri Lankan players for a long time now? Is the attacking mentality that I will take the game on against the opponent. I don't see that attitude in the rest of the Sri Lankan players, be it
Yeah,
bowlers, be it batters.
Trishadi, if you were Chamari Athapaththu, and in that India match, you know that Sriti Mandana gets trouble against off spin or maybe into her early into her innings.
You know what
Don't
I
you
would
have
do?
take that ball and you go up to bowl that fast over? Because you are one of the
Absolutely.
top off spinner.
And you have dismissed Smriti in the WPL.
Yes,
So
yes,
you would do that.
yes,
In fact, I said I would give it to Kavisha Dilhari at one end, and
yes.
I would myself go at the other end and say, let's attack. Because what
Mm.
happens is we have seen that clearly,
Mm.
distinctly, the role is Pratika plays the anchor and Smriti
Yes.
plays the aggressor. Remove
Mm.
Smriti, start testing Indian batting. While the
Yes.
Indian batters are fantastic, no
Mm.
way was India going to lose that match. But push them at one point when
Exactly.
Harleen is struggling. You're giving the ball back to pacers. When you're
Mm.
seeing that she's struggling against spinners, getting a catching fielder, getting a slip fielder, push them. They could not contain Pratika at all. You
Mm.
know Pratika's game is initial few balls she's going to take singles. That's what she did against South Africa as well. And you will see South Africa will come back with a better plan. But you will not see probably a Sri Lanka coming back with a better plan. So that is something that needs to change. If I was Atapato, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, Sanjit Sarkar again. Since lost to Ireland in series last year, Sri Lanka have not looked that same unit they were before it. Reason still unknown. I think the lack of proactiveness. I think that Trishadi mentioned.
Yeah, and what happens is when you are not somebody who can bring that change, by
Mm.
taking some steps, you are very momentum dependent. So there was a
Yes.
point when everything was going Sri Lanka's way, and that Ireland series happened, everything started going downwards. So now for them to bring everything upwards again, they have to put in more effort, they have to be more aggressive. And most importantly, Snehashish, if I was in the Sri Lankan dressing room, I would have said, look, we are anyway losing everything. Let's go out
Mm.
there, express ourselves, and see what happens. What worse can happen? We have anyway lost one
Exactly.
match, and if we lose this match by being defensive, we are out of the tournament in our own home soil
Fine.
with spinners, with a good batter, with a legend like Athapaththu. Make no mistake, Athapaththu is a legend of the game.
Fine.
But let's go out there, express ourselves, and see what happens.
Yes. Okay, Sanjit, a good comment. Also, your views on T20 World Cup 2026 venues compared to ones in India for ODI World Cup 2025. Trishadi.
Um, well, I think there is one thing that probably BCCI has considered. It's something about monsoon season. That's what I was
Mm.
hearing. Having said that, yes, of course. I mean, the kind of venues that are there for the Women's World Cup is absolutely not something that I am in favor of.
Mm.
Or I would have liked to see Women's World Cup in a few prominent cities. Look, you are still trying to get or pull crowds, and you have seen what WPL has done in a Bengaluru. You have seen the impact of WPL in Delhi. uh, Bring those in. I thought at least one or two of those venues will be there along with a
Exactly.
along with an Indore or a Mullanpur or something of that sort, because I do understand the monsoon concern, because you want to get the matches done, but also you have to get in bigger cities, because that is where you can pull in the crowd, and you need to pull in the crowd. As far as England or Australia is concerned, England and Australia have always given main venues and main cities. It is not something surprising, Sanjit, because or rather Shonjit, because 2017 World Cup final happened in Lords. I
Mm.
think 2009 World Cup happened in Lords. The Australia World Cup final happened in
MCC.
MCG,
Mm.
and it was electrical atmosphere
Yes.
at MCG. They brought in Katy Perry. Uh, I feel at times our board could be a little conservative, like they probably are they are trying their best, let me put it this way. So
Mm.
it's not like BCCI is doing it intentionally because they don't care about the
No.
women's world cup. Because if they did not care about women's cricket, you would not see a WPL, you would not see the men and women getting the same same kind of money, same kind of infrastructure. Even
Mm.
women, when they're injured, they are at the NCA. But the problem is, I think a few things together has come up, and there is a lot of confusion there. There is a lot of logistical questions which you
Mm.
and I from here do not understand. But yes, as I said again, I mean, in fact, every time I I meet the CAB president, I keep telling him that why don't we have more women's cricket here in Kolkata? Um,
Mm.
but I believe it. I believe things will change, and we will see more women's
Yes.
cricket, especially with WPL happening. I feel WPL in another 2 years probably will become a home and away format, because if you can put in that sixth team, it will be easier to
Mm.
make it home and away. Five teams, it becomes difficult. We have seen that because one city was,
Mm.
added. Um but let's see. Let's hope that the fact that IPL was in
Yes.
Nullanpur probably will get more people in to watch the Smriti
Mm.
Mandanas and the Jemima Rodriguez and the Harmanpreet Kaurs.
Yes, I think there is no deniable that the board is trying their best in that women's cricket. But at least when it comes to as a supporter of women's cricket, it was sad to say called the venues.
Correct.
But what I thought that maybe the semi-final or finals at least they can arrange they can, yes,
Absolutely.
can give a top venue. But it's okay, as we are hoping that in future I think things will definitely change. And the best part is that we have already a schedule of 2026 World Cup, T20 World Cup, and you don't have the 2025 ODI World Cup schedule, which is in 2 months to come. so,
But
so
I think there is a problem there as well, Snehashish,
uh,
and that is not completely dependent on BCCI, because now
yes,
there's a political angle to things.
yes, yes.
India, Pakistan cannot be in the same group, probably.
Yes, that is
I'm
playing a
not
part. Yes,
confirming this part, but I think there is something like that.
yes. There
And
are
what
reports. There were reports. There were
exactly?
reports.
And look, in all practical senses, I don't see the Pakistan team coming to India and playing,
No, no, no,
and
not
Pakistan
happening.
has qualified. So now,
Yes.
of course, it becomes a hybrid World Cup. Now, if it's
Mm-hmm.
a hybrid World Cup, it is not that easy to announce venue
Easy.
schedules all of
Yes.
a sudden, because everything happened last moment with the qualifier just ending.
I,
So
I
Pakistan
think
had
this
just
this
qualified.
schedule thing same happened before the Champions Trophy also, the men's
Correct,
Champions Trophy.
correct,
Mm, mm.
absolutely. And this will always happen when you're doing a qualifier,
Yes.
because you cannot decide. And in this circumstances where
Mm,
there's a country which will not come to another
mm.
country for political reasons, and this is completely political reasons, BCCI can do nothing about it. So
Ex-
BCCI's hands, not only BCCI, ICC, nobody can do anything about it. They have to wait for the qualifier to get over. Now they will get together, plan, and get the schedule done. I think in the next maybe month or so we will get a schedule.
Yes, hopefully. Okay, by the way, the toss is done, and I think Sri Lanka have won the toss and opted to bowl first. So South Africa to bat. Okay.
Wrong decision.
Yeah, Sri Lanka have won the toss and will bowl first against South Africa. Okay, and the team sheets are also here. Okay, let's me read it out. 1 second. Okay, it's Laura Wolvaardt, Tasmin Beats, Sunelu, Sinalo Zapta comes in, Tushadi. So you're experimenting with Karabo Meso is done and dusted after one match. Sinalo Zapta comes in. Oh, no, 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 sorry. Sinalo Zapta as a sub. Sorry, Karabo Meso is in the playing list.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I'm thinking. That
Yeah,
generally
yeah,
South
yeah.
Africa is not someone
Sorry.
who would do that. Yeah.
Karabo Meso is in. Lara Goodall is there. Ayabongo Khaka, Malaba, Class, Direction, Nadine de Klerk, Chloe
They have
Tryon.
made no changes.
Yes,
They
there is
have
no
made no
change.
changes.
Yes, and for South and for Sri Lanka, one second, checking. For Sri Lanka, there is
For Sri Lanka, there are three changes.
okay.
So
Chamari Athapaththu, Hasini Pereira, Harshita Samaravikrama, Vishmi Gunaratne, Kavisha
this is
Dilhari,
a very good
uh,
change. Rishmi
Nilakshi De
Gunaratne,
Silva,
yeah,
Anushka Sanjivani, Devmi Vyanga debut. Vyanga making her debut.
yeah, she is a
Malki
right-handed batter.
Madara,
Hmm.
okay. Sugandhika Kumari and Inoka Ranawaya. Okay. So these are the teams.
I think the whole point of the the changes is that the whole point of the changes made is basically Sri Lanka is trying to tighten their batting, and also Deomi is a bowling all rounder, off spinner who can bat. Uh,
Hmm.
in the recent England in the recent under 19 World Cup, she
Hmm.
picked up a lot of wickets. Did not have that many scores to back her up in the World Cup, but did get a lot of wickets. In fact, she got a 4 for against England.
Oh, okay. Hmm. And England were a very good side in that under 19 World Cup. So you
Yeah.
have to give credit. Okay, Sanjit Sarkar saying to do well in women ODI against
Sorry, no,
top
this
team.
was this was in the Sri Lanka Tri Nation Women's under 19 that which happened between
Okay.
Australia, England, and Sri Lanka.
Okay, okay, in the series. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. To do well in women ODI against top teams in these days, how much you should aim for batting first?
270
Mm.
minimum. 250 to 70 again depends on the pitch. There are some pitches where 230, 35, 40 will do.
Mm. Okay, Asim Khan says here, could the ODI World Cup 2025 venues be a positive since none of the foreign teams would have any experience of those grounds from the WPL? Alana King mentioned all the Aussies were taking notes during WPL.
I'll tell you an interesting story, Asim Hans. I Somebody told me that I think it was Chulandi who told me that Australians actually take notes of every single minute, even behavioral change in opposition players. Like, somebody laughing more means they're more nervous, or some such small cues. So Australians are good at taking notes, and whether they play in a certain venue or not, I don't think is going to stop Australia. And now with Charlotte Edwards and Nat Silverbrand, I don't even think England anymore will be a poor side. So don't judge them by the ashes. And I'm repeating this Nat Silverbrand. It's Nat Charlie supremacy time. I think I've said this. I had tweeted this, and I genuinely believe. So I don't think it will make a lot of difference when it comes to Australia, England, India, and to some extent South Africa, maybe, and New Zealand. I think these are the five teams that will, fight for the top four and then eventually for the trophy.
Yes, I think in that New Zealand setup, obviously the spin department is very experienced. I think the spin
And the other
department will
thing
play
is,
a huge.
do not forget that Australia had a poor outing in the last World Cup. They will be crazy
Mm,
hungry. See the way that they have been playing. They take it in their ego
mm,
when they lose, and they lost pretty badly. So they are going to be on the top of their game. I think that's scary.
yes, absolutely. Okay, as of now, I think all the comments are done. Yes, as of now, all the comments are done. Okay, Trishadi, so considering the playing 11s, we went through the playing 11s. So how do you see this? Obviously, Sri Lanka have won the toss and bowling first. How do you see South Africa going against them? It's looking like they will face a huge amount of spin threats today. The way Sri Lanka have managed to come up with the playing 11.
Yeah, and this should have been the playing 11 last game as well.
Mm,
You should have gotten Sugandhika Kumari, very good left arm orthodox bowler. Vishmi Gunaratne, I don't know if she was injured, But Vishnu Gunaratne is your second best batter right now. Why are you dropping her? Nobody knows. If she was dropped, that is. Uh, uh, so I think overall, yes, some very solid changes, but I'm not 100% sure that they should have bowled first. A team like
Mm.
Sri Lanka should actually bat first, get something on the board, and then defending it becomes rather easier than bowling first, because see, Laura Woolward and Tasmin Brits will come out all guns blazing. They will be, fully confident, because if you have put that performance where you have just lost by 15 runs and you could have actually won that game at every point, I think your confidence will be sky high, especially with the
Mm.
fact that you could see that Laura Woolward was a little apprehensive as to how to go about playing spin. And they had a lot of chat about it. They executed their plans, they used their feet well. The resultant was, yes, Snehrana took 5 wickets, but um, that came
But the
pretty
damage was
later.
done already. The damage was done
Exactly.
already by. Mm.
That came pretty late. I think the main batters of South Africa batted really well against spin. Even Deckerson, she was 30 of 19 balls, and it was
Mm.
not an easy pitch to bat on. I
Mm.
feel South Africa will be way confident going into this. And think of it, a big win here, South Africa becomes way more confident about subcontinent conditions. It's not even about Sri Lanka or India in
India.
specific.
Mm.
Absolutely. If you perform so well against two Asian sides in the subcontinent area, in subcontinent conditions, I think you're all set for the World Cup.
Okay. One
I
comment
would
is there.
actually love to see anybody winning the World Cup but Australia. I'm tired of seeing Australia winning the World Cup.
Yes. Okay, Sanjit Sarkar, you need bigger venues as you need to attract crowds for non-India matches. So at least stadium is half filled up.
I completely agree. That's exactly what strikes my head. But yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Just think about the final happening in Lords. I think superb. I think in Lords two teams are coming out for that World Cup. I think it will be huge thing. And if England manage to be in that final, I think then you will see a full crowd. Oh my God. England coming out under Charlotte Edwards. Oh my God, too good. Okay. সঞ্জয় বিট অফ টপিক নট ইনটু স্পোর্টস এক্স্যাক্টলি কিন্তু আজকে সত্যজিৎ রায়ের জন্মদিন এমন মানুষের অর পার্সন ফার অ্যাহেড অফ টাইমস আ লেজেন্ড অ্যাবসলিউটলি আ লেজেন্ড হিউজ হ্যাপি বার্থডে সত্যজিৎ রায় এবং আমরা সবাই সিনেমা দেখেছি ছোটবেলা থেকে সত্যি কথা বলতে আমি অতটা সিনেমা মানে কমই দেখি আই থিঙ্ক তৃষাদিও একটু কমই সিনেমা দেখে, বই পড়ে। তৃষাদি প্রচুর বই পড়ে। আমরা হ্যাঁ, আমি সেটার চেষ্টা করছি কিন্তু হয় না এখনো। তৃষাদি আমার পেছনে লেগে আছে বলে আমরা চেষ্টা করছি সেদিকে এগোনোর। কিন্তু কিন্তু সত্যজিৎ রায় অবশ্যই যেটুকু শুনেছি, যেটুকু দেখেছি একজন অসম্ভব ভালো মানুষ ছিলেন এবং অবশ্যই তার আজকে জন্মদিন এবং I think আমরা কিছু একটা প্ল্যান করছি সত্যজিৎ রায়কে নিয়ে। তাই না তৃষাদি? আমাদের কিছু একটা ভিডিও বা কিছু একটা প্ল্যান আছে I guess.
এবং সত্যজিৎ রায়ের, because Sanjit spoke about Satyajit Ray, and today, of course, is the
হুম,
birthday of the great man. Um,
হুম।
I was lucky enough to be shooting at his house for a
Oh,
particular episode. Yes, I was
nice,
there. I met Sandeep Rai, and we were having the famous fish fry there. But yes,
nice.
and for me, the moment was when I got to touch and see that Oscar that Satyajit Ray got. The
Lovely.
other thing that I will never forget was there was this big red diary
হুম,
where Darjeeling e Jomjomat, that script was written,
oh,
that story was written. Um,
lovely.
the one thing that has stayed with me from, and this is something that I do, I write down something that stays with me from every shoot that I do. Something or the other. It could be something that I did, it could be something somebody said. And I remember I was talking to Satyajit Ray's son, Mr. Sandeep Rai, and I was like, tell us one thing, one thing about your father which stuck with you always, or something that you follow, some work philosophy. And he said, my father was ruthless. and my
Mm.
father wanted that
Australia.
exact, yeah, and absolutely
Mm.
wanted that. There was I don't remember the exact movie that he was talking about, but there was a particular pistol that,
Perfectionist.
yeah,
Perfectionist.
perfectionist. There was a particular pistol that
Mm.
he wanted to use for Feluda, for one of the Feluda movies. And the police who was going to give that, the cop who was going to give that pistol was transferred to some other area. He halted the
Okay.
shoot. He waited for that pistol to be brought, and then he shot. In fact, in one of his favorite movies, he himself had cut off two. Back then, it was the reels, right? He used to cut. The editing was that cutting of. And Sunny Prai had asked him that you said these were two of the best shots that you have directed. Why are you cutting it? He said, but it has got no place in the film. It does not enhance the story, so it has no place in the film. So let's just cut it out. And that ruthlessness and the way he spoke about his own work has actually stayed with me.
Mm. Interesting story. Thank you, Sanjit Sarkar, for coming up with that comment. That is why we get to know this beautiful story. Okay, Asim Khan saying, what do you make of Charlotte Edwards' comments that she is out here to win, which is contrary to her predecessor? Also, she mentions no major changes needed, only minor tweaks even after that ashes. Tushadi?
I think John Lewis was doing well with the team, but a few comments when the problem is when England started losing, Lewis started saying some very weird statements. He started making weird statements like, "Oh, you know what? The Australians are more
Fitness and all.
yeah,
He
the
put in,
fitness and
yeah,
all." If he thought um
the mindset difference. He was
yeah,
talking like
there's
that.
a mindset difference, and you can see
Mm.
that that is there in UP Warriors as well. Somewhere I feel that the coaching part, I don't know. As Asim Hans in the next topic has written, next comment has written, John Lewis was all about inspire and entertain, while Edwards is all about winning. Is she putting pressure on herself, or this is just a winner's mindset? This is absolutely her mindset. This is how Australia functions. This is how England functions, and this is how who anybody look. Nobody here in international cricket is there just to inspire and entertain. You can't do
Yeah.
that. It's in WPL you probably can. In IPL you can inspire and entertain, but not in international cricket. So Charlotte Edwards means business, and I would have been surprised if she didn't mean business. I would have been disappointed. You know,
Yes. Yes.
that is where I said the two of the most professional, most prolific professionals of England right now are going to head the team in Charlotte Edwards and Nat Silver-Brunt. Absolute professionals. The only thing that makes them happy is a win. It's very very interesting times, and I agree with what she said. This is something I wanted to point out, that what I liked about her was she did not come and wanted to change every single thing because there was a 16-nil loss. She was like just a little tweak. And you will see Heather Knight will be well respected and kept in the team because as a batter she has done well. So it was the captaincy which needed a change, coaching which needed a change, but Heather Knight too will be a strong part of this. And I think you will see some very minor tweaks, role changes. When it
Mm.
comes to tweaks, it will be role changes here and there, and there will be a lot of mindset change. You will see a lot of aggression there.
Absolutely. And talking about that mindset thing, I think in WPL we have seen in movement and scam what Charlotte Edwards can bring with that mindset. So I think that is one thing that we will keep an eye that is that work, will that work for England or not? Because obviously she will look to, to come up with that mindset in that whole England setup. And they have started their campaign. I think you guys have seen in reels and videos that have been posted by England Cricket Board that, yo-yo tests are happening. And yesterday they had that photo shoot with the T20 World Cup because obviously the schedule came out and all. So I think they have started their preparation. And me, Trishadi, we are both pretty excited to see how they go against, West Indies. I think this
Absolutely.
that series I think that series will show that what this England can do under obviously Charlotte Edwards as the head coach and obviously Nat Sherwood as the new captain. Okay, okay. I think the comments are done as of now. Okay, Trishadi, I think we can wrap up the show with some prediction that uh, What do you think? How much can
South Africa
South
will win.
Africa score? South Africa, but how much they can score?
I'm seeing 285 to 310.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. So then they have to bat pretty well. I think it will not that easy.
Look, if Brits bats, she's going to bat briskly. Then there's a Deckerson to finish. So I think there's strong batting.
Mm, yes, and I think it's a huge occasion for Lara Goodwill after that failure in the first game.
Very
If she,
one-dimensional player. It seems like
yes,
she's very one-dimensional player,
yes,
and that does not go well. We have seen what has happened to
yes. The only
one-dimensional
one
players
shot is
in
sweep. The only one shot sweep. Sweep, all those 8 or 9 runs, and then Sreya decides to, to come and drive me if you can. They invited
and that's
her
it.
and beat on the flight and straight bowled. I think that's a simple plan. I think that is what I think Lara Goodwell needs to think, and hopefully she can deliver, because I think she knows personally also that when Annika Bush comes, there is no place for us to at least be in that squad. At least if
Correct.
she wants to be in that squad for that World Cup, I think these 3 or 4 innings will decide. So I think at least she will come up with some 40s, 50s, maybe one or two. At least show that management, okay, you can be faithful on me. If there is something an issue, I can come up for the team. So I think that's a huge innings for for her. Okay, so as Trishati mentioned, and I rightfully agree that I think South Africa are the favorites going into this match, and let's see if eventually they can manage to score 280, 290, or maybe 300 plus. I think it's a huge batting display waiting for us, and 100 maybe again from Laura Wolvaardt or someone. Oh, by the way, against South Africa, sorry, against Sri Lanka, Laura Wolvaardt has an ODI average of 125 plus.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
think of this last game, and Laura Woolward is typically, like that first bencher,
yes,
topper. So she will not like what happened last game. She did not score a
exactly,
lot of runs. So expect a
exactly.
century from her. I'm telling you, expect a century from her.
Yes, but the good point that as I think you guys have seen that interview. In that interview, we talked about it that Laura, you must be pretty happy that before the World Cup you are facing Sri Lanka. You're one of the favorite opponents. You have scored so many runs. So she was so good that she said, "Oh yeah, I know the stats are good, but if you think in Sri Lanka, I think I need to work more." So that's so good of her that she knows her game so well that she knows that okay, I might have scored those runs in defined conditions, but in these conditions against Sri Lanka or any other top Asian teams, I need to work hard, and that makes a great player. I think a player when she
Correct.
knows or he knows that okay, I might have been so good in this format or against this particular opposition, but still these are the areas that I need to improve and I will work hard. I think that makes a good player and a best player, and that is where Lara Wolbert is going to be. I think that's the mindset, Tushadi, right? That's the mindset
Absolutely,
difference.
absolutely, and put it absolutely perfectly. That is what makes a difference between a good player and a great player. That
Mm,
you know that yes, I like batting against this team, but you know your strengths and weaknesses. You're
mm,
aware of what puts you in trouble, and what puts you in place. So
yes.
that part is lovely. The humility, you know she's a fantastic batter. I mean, I can watch her batting entire day. Even her
Yes.
defense, it's art. There are
That
certain batters
that extra
whose
time, that
batting eye
that
is art.
extra time that we talk about Rohit Sharma's batting, that extra time he has, I think that
That
extra
we
time Lona will get. Yes.
absolutely. I think they make batting look like the easiest thing possible, and trust me, it is not.
Mm, yes, absolutely. Okay, so thank you, Trishadi. Thank you everyone
No,
for
no, we
joining
can't
in.
go without taking Pavan Suresh's high.
Oh, okay. There's a comment. One. Oh, yes, Pavan Suresh. Hi, Pavan. Hi. Good morning. Yes, I think that is the best comment to end up. You're ending a show
Absolutely.
with a high. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Trishadi. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Obviously, we'll come up with a post-match show. Hopefully, a well contested match is waiting for us, because as a neutral fan of this match, I think we expect a good match, because obviously as we are talking about since the start of this campaign of this series, that this series is all about getting prepared for that World Cup. I think in the last match was a perfect preparation for both of the teams, for India and South Africa, and hopefully Sri Lanka will come up good and it will be good preparation for both of the teams in this match. So let's meet in the post match live show. Till then, take care and enjoy the match. Thank you.